Now we are discussing about the topics of economics. In that, today we are discussing about the subject of what is GDP. That is, GDP means gross domestic product. Is a monetary measure of the market value of all the final goods and services produced and sold in a specific time period by countries. Due to its complex and subjective nature, this measure is often revised before being considered a reliable indicator. So, and next point is when using expenditures, approximate approach, expenditures approach to calculating GDP, the components are consumption, investment, government spending, exports and imports. GDP growth rate in India averaged 2% from the 1996 until 2022, reaching an all-time high of 22.80% in the third quarter of 2020 and a record low of 24% in the second quarter of 2020. And the elements are the four components of gross domestic product are personal consumption, business investment, government spending, and net exports. All these are the elements of filaments and four components of gross domestic product. And next point is what is GDP in simple terms? GDP measures the monetary value of final goods and services, that is, those that are bought by the final user produced in a country in a given period of time. It counts all the output generated within the borders of a country. Next is what is GDP and example. Gross domestic product is the monetary value of all finished goods and services made within a country during a specific period. GDP provides an economic snapshot of a country used to estimate the size of an economy and growth rate. GDP can be calculated in three ways: using expenditures, production or incomes. And the next point is how the GDP is calculated. That is, GDP is equal to private consumption plus gross private investment, government investment and government spending plus in brackets exports minus imports. GDP is usually calculated by the National Statistical Agency of the country following the international standard. And the next point is what is GDP and why it is important. One of the most important is gross domestic product, better known by its initials GDP. This economic indicator reflects the monetary value of goods and services produced in the country over a certain period of time. What are the three types of GDP? National GDP, the total value of all goods and services produced at current market prices. Real GDP, the sum of all goods and services produced at constant prices. Actual GDP, real-time measurement of all outputs at any interval or any given time. What are the four main components of GDP? When using the expenditures approach to calculating GDP, the components are consumption, investment, government spending, exports and imports. And the next point is what is the difference between the GDP and the GNP. GDP means gross domestic product is the value of the finished domestic goods and services produced within a nation's borders. Finished domestic goods and services produced within a nation's borders will be considered as GDP, gross domestic product. That means the gross. On the other hand, gross national product is the value of, especially gross national product means the value of finished goods and services owned by the country's citizens, whether or not those goods are produced in the country. This is the information regarding GDP. GDP is the most important concept in economics, so everyone should know the basics regarding this. Wishing you all the best.